I bought my first van in the summer of 2013 because I was sick of wasting money on hotel rooms. In addition to being a filmmaker, I'm also an author. I've written several books, and I used to go on book tours all the time, which basically means that I would spend between 150 and 200 days a year traveling. And it also means that I used to spend between $15,000 and $20,000 on hotel stays. Now, the worst part about it was that I didn't really even get to enjoy these hotel rooms. I barely set foot in them, actually. Typically, how it would go is I would go to a town or a city and I would teach a class, I would do a book signing, and at the very end of the night, I'd go back to the hotel room and I would just literally throw my bones on the bed and go to sleep. 6 hours later, I'd wake up, I'd get in the car and go to the next location. So this expense sucked. It was 100% unnecessary, and the rational part of my brain told me that something had to change. Prior to purchasing a Sprinter van, I did quite a bit of deliberating about which vehicle would be best for me. I needed a car that was both voluminous, I needed a lot of room for books and heavy film equipment, but I also needed fuel economy. I needed a car that I could crisscross the entire United States in, and I wouldn't just get pillaged at the gas pump. Initially, I had my eye set on a VW Eurovan, but after perusing countless auto listings, I quickly learned that a 20-year-old beat-up microbus with over 200,000 miles on it sells for between 20 and 25 grand. This seemed like a ridiculous amount to pay for an old van that could fall apart at any moment. So I kept looking. I looked into other options as well, such as trucks and campers, pull-behind trailers and RVs, but was ultimately deterred by high mileage, low fuel economy, lack of reliability, and/or hefty price tags. Then during a work trip to Europe, I discovered the Sprinter van, and boy was it glorious. There was nothing embarrassing or shameful about this van whatsoever. It was spacious, it was practical, and yet it was somehow classy, and I instantly wanted one. So when I returned home from my overseas trip, I Googled Sprinter van, I went down to my local Mercedes dealership, and I bought one. I remember feeling extremely nervous because I'd never bought a new vehicle before, let alone one with a $40,000 price tag. But again, the money that I was shucking out on hotel stays helped justify the purchase. I've owned my van for 5 years, and I'm proud to report that I've never had 1 ounce of regret. There's been no buyer's remorse. Out of all the different vehicles that I've owned in the past, this van is by far my favorite vehicle, and I absolutely love it. I like to compare my van to the transition from a T9 cell phone to a cell phone with a full keyboard. So if you recall, back in the day, we used to have those brick Nokia phones, and on those phones, you had to hit each button 3 times to get a desired letter. So texting was a pain in the butt. And then we all got phones with full keyboards, which means that we could now write text much quicker. It was much more convenient. Our minds were blown, and it was evident that we're never going back to the old ways. It just seems archaic now to do that, right? Same thing with a van. When you experience firsthand what it's like to be able to freely move around in your vehicle, to get up from the driver's seat and then go into the back, maybe when it's raining or snowing outside, and yet you're comfortable, you're standing upright, you're warm and cozy, this is an incredible feeling, and you just can't replicate it in other vehicles. So once you experience the comfort and the convenience of a van, you can't go back to a sedan or a station wagon. It's just not happening. It goes without saying that paying for hotel rooms is now a thing of the past for me. Now when I travel, I stay in my vehicle. And in doing this, I save heaps of dough, and I'm way more comfortable because I get to sleep in my own bed, surrounded by my own smells every night. In addition to being great work vehicles, vans are also fantastic for leisure. Whether you're going adventuring with your buddies or visiting relatives in another town, traveling by way of van allows you to be more spontaneous, more flexible, self-reliant, and free. Presently, I don't live in my van full time. I use it more like a weekender. So my girlfriend has a house, I live there, and then whenever we want to go adventuring, we fill up the van and we go. Whether that be for a weekend or a week or a month, this works really well for us. And so we like to think about it kind of like in spaceship terms, where the house is the mothership and the van is the rocket. And every so often the van has to resupply like rockets do. And then, we fly off somewhere else and go exploring, go have fun, go to work, whatever. During the first couple years of van ownership, one thing that I remember very distinctly is that people used to stop me on the street. Random strangers would stop me on the street and they'd ask me a plethora of different questions. They would ask me things like, what kind of van is that? Do you like your van? What kind of gas mileage do you get? Where do you get it? How much was it? Etc., etc. And then one day all the questions stopped and people just stopped coming up to me, period. And it was kind of strange because it happened consistently, and then boom, nothing. After pondering on this for a while, I figured that this shift had to do with the fact that there are more vans on the road. While vans and van life have been around since the early 60s, we are currently seeing one of the biggest van booms in history right now. If you look at commercial van sales in America alone since about 2016, you'll notice that Ford Transits, they're the leaders in the US. They sell about 14,000 vans a month. Chevy Express sells 6,000 vans a month. Ford E-Series 5.8. Dodge Promasters is next at 3.3 thousand. Mercedes-Benz is close behind at 3,000. And the Nissan NV series sells about 1.7 thousand vans per month. So that's roughly 33,000 vans per month total and 405,000 vans per year in the US alone. I'm no expert, but 405,000 new vans on the road per year seems like a lot of vans. Maybe that's why it feels like vans are everywhere these days, because they literally are. Globally, vans appear to be trending as well. In the first half of 2017, Mercedes-Benz reported that it sold nearly 200,000 vans, mainly Sprinters and Metruses, worldwide. This marked the 5th year in a row that their van division experienced significant growth, and according to expert projections, this trend will only continue to increase. In addition to these sales figures, today there's way more resources about vans and van life than ever before. There are literally countless blogs and websites and social media accounts and YouTube videos about vans, and so people have a lot more ways that they can learn about van life, which means they no longer have to stop random strangers on the street like myself and get information directly from them. So what is this all about? Why are vans booming? Clearly there's a need out there that these vehicles are meeting, and yet the answer to this is anybody's guess. In fact, even Mercedes-Benz has no idea. And I know this because they actually sent me an email where they said, Sergey, why is it that you think vans are booming? So, when they're asking somebody like myself, I can only assume that they have questions as to why this is happening and what's going on. Major publications such as The New Yorker, Time, and Vice have their own speculations. In one way or another, they all claim that vans are trending because van life is the new American dream. This intrigues me for several reasons. Number one, it's a big, bold statement that I automatically want to challenge. And number two, it very well might be true. Is van life really the next American dream? If so, then why? Are people moving into vans because they can no longer afford to live in traditional houses? Or are they simply shifting their values because they're finding that alternative lifestyles make them more fulfilled and happy? And maybe that's what's going on. If this is the case, does van living actually make people more happy and fulfilled? Is this a sustainable lifestyle? I want to know if van life is a trend that will someday pass and we'll think, oh my God, I can't believe we ever thought this was cool, or perhaps this is a viable lifestyle that's here to stay. I've decided to act on this curiosity and make a movie that investigates this van boom. This summer, I'm gonna jump into my Sprinter van and I'm gonna go wherever the wind blows me to try and interview as many different people as I can that are in some way, shape, or form tied to vans. I want to sit down with as many different demographics as I can, this being young couples, seasoned vanners, solo travelers, nomadic families, companies that manufacture vans and van products, and anyone else that's willing to talk to me, and I want to get down to the bottom of why vans are so popular. I have no clue whatsoever if this is a good idea, if this movie will be interesting, but I have this genuine curiosity and I'm going for it.
Okay, so I suppose you want a van tour. Let's check it out. All right, this is our cozy little Sprinter van. This is our bed. It's a twin, so we snuggle. Underneath we have storage for our camping stove, extra camping gear, clothes. And then up top we have cargo nets, which we can store our curtains or window shades or more clothes. We also have some little utility racks and cute hangers, as well as some sparkle lights. Let's go around back and I'll show you some more. So in the back here we have our kettlebells. This is how we work out when we're on the road, and they also provide extra weight and traction for the van. So this is another view of the van from the back. As you can see, it's super simple. We don't live in the van, we take it for weekend trips, so this simple setup works really great for us. Okay, on the back of the van we have a ladder. It's made by Prime Design and it gets us to the top. Let's go. Here we have a little deck made of plastic pallets. It's perfect for stargazing, taking naps, or having picnics, and extra storage if needed. Also on the roof we have a road shower. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a shower for the road, and it gives us the opportunity to clean off after surfing or being in the lake, or clean the car, whatever we desire. So everything I just showed you on top of the roof is attached to the roof via our roof rack, the Alu Rack by Prime Design. The last thing I want to show you is our Verta Rack. It allows us to store our paddle boards on the outside of the van, which frees up space inside of the van for us. So that's our van in a nutshell.
So today is June 2nd. We're officially kicking off the production of Van Boom. We start filming today, and we're heading from Tacoma, Washington up to Bellingham to take part in a van life festival. This festival is hosted by Freedom Vans. They're an outfitter that customizes Sprinter vans and Ford vans, every other kind of van. And so we're gonna go meet some cool people, see some cool vans, and hopefully gather some interviews.
Okay, what do I think we're gonna learn while making this documentary? I hope to learn the real truth about van life, because on Instagram and social media, it just looks so gosh darn fun. And I want to know if it's really that amazing, and how much you have to make to afford that kind of life, and what kind of jobs you can have to live that kind of life, because it seems like an expensive lifestyle. And to have an expensive lifestyle, you need a job, but if you're living out of your van, you can't always have a traditional job. I don't think I want to live in a van myself, though maybe someday it would be a possibility, but I think it's interesting to know all of this, because there's a lot of people out there who are considering it, and a lot of people who are considering buying a van over buying a house. I just bought a house, so I'm gonna live in the house and not the van, but maybe other people will choose the other way around. I'm just a little confused sometimes, because a lot of people, when they go into living in a van, they say it's because they can't afford to buy a house or live in a house. When you buy a van, it costs, if you buy a new van, it costs roughly like $40,000, Sergey?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, and then if you want a really nice build, like something comfortable where you have a kitchen and you can actually live in it, that's at least another 60 grand, I would think. Probably more, but so you're up to 100 grand in this van. I live in an area that is appreciating, so if I decide to sell the house in 5 years, I will make money off of living in my home. If you have a van, they just break down, you put on miles, so there's no way that you're gonna make money off of your van. You're only gonna lose money in the end. So I don't see the benefit, or I don't see how people say it's cheaper than buying your own home. Hopefully through this documentary, we'll get to the bottom of that, and people can explain why it's cheaper than owning a home.
Who says you can't have a lot of shoes if you live in a van?
My name's Tom. I run a company with my partner Kylie called Freedom Vans, and we are all about giving people chances to live off the grid. Sidestep mortgage if you want. You can live out of your van, have solar power, have all your amenities, comfortable living space, all in a tiny little space on wheels. Vans are popular and gaining popularity because they take the automotive industry and basically combine all of the genres into one space that performs as well as each of them and actually outperforms a lot of them. They're people carriers, they're efficient on fuel, they can load a lot of job materials, heavy equipment, they can get from A to B comfortably, they do it all. I got inspired for the van life movement because of housing crisis. I'm a dog owner, but I'm not a wealthy home owner at the same time. And so when I tried to move from one lease to find a new place, I couldn't get anything. Nobody would sign me up. You have a dog, you can't rent here. And then I had a van that I used to travel for mountain bike racing, and I started feeling like I wasn't gonna have a catch net to land in when my lease ended. And I was like, I'm not gonna be homeless. So I took matters into my own hands and I built myself a weekender. I built a little Ford Econoline from the mid-90s. That was an old conversion van. I gutted it and I put a desk in there that I used for a counter. I built a power system and stuffed a fridge and cut in a sink and glued a microwave to the desk. I didn't know how to do pumps, but I found a pond pump and it worked. So that was kind of how it all started for me. And I just felt so liberated when I figured out I could comfortably live for a month out of a van. For one whole month, I didn't have a house. So then I realized van life was sweet. It was 100% liberating. I felt no longer like I was trapped by expensive real estate that I couldn't afford. I felt like for a low investment, I could get a comfortable space, and that sort of stair-stepped me up to doing that same thing for other people now. A lot of the things that we do build are for people who are going weekenders, you know, they're a weekend warrior, they want to go traveling, get out of town, stress relief, you know, vacation stuff. That's important and it matters a lot to everybody, so you need to be able to do that. But then there's also the people like traveling nurses who are going somewhere for 7 weeks at a time. They've got a traveling stipend and they're getting paid for housing. My first full-time client-based Freedom van was Dana. She has her van named Amelia. She lives out of it in California. And that is a good example of a new way of thinking about how you can approach your living space. She pays about $700 a month is her van plus conversion payment. It was all worked in on the same purchase. So her van purchase and her conversion were lumped into one. And the cost is about $700 a month. She owns it via the bank, but in an area where a one-bedroom apartment is $2,200, San Francisco Bay Area is $2,300 to $2,600 for a one-bedroom apartment. So her one-bedroom van in the spaces she was traveling in is $700 a month, and that's a pretty good system when you look at the numbers.
I think that economically it makes sense, and there's a lot of people turning to van life for that reason, but the motivator is more that our millennials are all coming of age to buy things, and they're seeing all these vans and these epic photos on Instagram, and they see that and then they want to live it.
The pictures you see of people living on Instagram, they're just like always having like just a joyous time, everything's perfect. How does van life on social media differ from real van life?
Yeah, I think that social media just gives you a glimpse of what van life is. Yes, you're in all of these beautiful places and you're having all these experiences, but I think what I missed the most was experiencing them with other people. And that's definitely becoming easier as more people are into van life and more people are traveling with their friends. But when we were on the road, our friends were more grounded and couldn't necessarily travel everywhere with us. So I miss just having people that I saw all the time and that community feeling. So it's nice to see people who are doing van life are building those communities. But again, that's just a glimpse on social media. I'm not sure how that actually translates into real life. It didn't translate for me.
And what about the aspect of social media that's like everyone posts their like beautiful photos and it just looks like so idealistic. Is it really like that? Like,
Yeah, so these beautiful photos, honestly, van life brought me to the most beautiful places. And sometimes I think back on my own photos, like, I just need that right now. And I'm really fortunate to live in a place that has all these beautiful lakes and trees. And I think that's why we ended up here after traveling to so many places to see where we really wanted to be. Yeah, I just think back on some of these photos that I took and how much I enjoyed those days. And those little glimpses, there's so much to those days that are actually not portrayed in the photos.
So this is the Noggin van crib. It's a 1995 Dodge old transit vehicle. We call her Rammy. We designed the bed, the kitchen, you know, everything so it would be extremely useful and beneficial to our kind of lifestyle that we thought we'd be living. And then in this back unit here, we've designed this huge kind of box, which is mainly storage, but you can also have a person or two sleep on this. This unit pops out. And the cool thing about this is her and I could both work on our laptops all day. We have little cushions that you could sit on the wheel wells. And so we built out, you know, these wood little things, and then we have cushions, and then you could sit here and work for 8 hours. So it was extremely useful for both of us to work and live. We both kind of had our own spaces when we needed, which was great, which was kind of like having a house or a separate room. Or you'd, you know, go to a coffee place or, you know, hop out of the van for a little bit.
What is the cost of van life? Everybody talks about how much cheaper it is than house life. Did you do any calculations?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So what does van life cost?
So van life for us, like, so we had an apartment here in Bellingham at Darby. It was $1,000 a month. Then you have internet and utilities, and so it was about $13-14 a month. And that was about 2 years ago. So we hopped in the van. We were spending, with all of our bills together and, you know, everything in our relationship, about $3,000 a month. So we had a lot of bills. We had student debts and, you know, credit cards and starting the business and all this expense. We hopped in the van and we were able to immediately get down to like $1,500. And then we started looking at our food expenses in LA. Well, I have a problem with sushi and really I love Thai food, and so we were going out to eat a lot. And we're like, okay, we can really cut this down even more. Then we started cooking every day. Then we started getting into the more of the vegan lifestyle and food, you know, fruits and vegetables and, you know, raw organic kind of cooking, and that really saved a lot of money. And so then we were down to like $1,000 a month, you know, even like $800 a month if you don't drive a whole lot.
Sweet. So if I understand you correctly, you went from roughly $3,000 a month to instantly $1,500, and then we're able to go down
to about $1,800. And that was with a lot of travel and not being cheap on organics and, you know, buying
That's a huge saving.
Proteins and, you know, stuff like that. So
because I've seen some of these people on YouTube like, oh, van life's so cheap, but now my coffee bill, because I hang out at coffee shops, has skyrocketed. So
I had already been doing that, so that was already included in my costs. You know, in Bellingham, I was going to 4 to 8 coffee meetings a day, and that really adds up. So what I would do in business meetings is I would take my Starbucks receipt or Woods Coffee in Bellingham, and I would take it to different meetings and say, hey, I bought one 30 minutes ago. You know, I'm here every day, you guys see me, so so they got to know me. But I would try and save a lot of money doing that. But LA, we would go to libraries, parks, beaches, you know, a lot of free Wi-Fi near malls, schools, a lot of things like that, housing apartments. So we just bounce around like that and not try and go into coffee shops.
My name is Chris Paige Owens. Most people call me Ma, from vanning at least. I live in Puyallup, Washington. Been vanning since 1978. Traveled all over the United States and even into England with vanning.
So what does vanning mean to you? Because you're us young people, we'd say you're the original gangster, the OG. What does vanning mean to you?
It's family. It's friends. It's life. You look around, you see the vans. Young people are coming back into it. There's a lot of us old people. I mean, I'm 71 years old, so grandma and great-grandmother. And but it's fun.
Why did you get into vanning originally in the 70s?
Somebody stopped us on the road and says, "Hey, there's a van club meeting at Shakey's at 7 o'clock on Thursday night." So we went. Been vanning ever since.
It seems like vans are becoming more and more popular. Would you say that?
I would say that a lot of these Sprinter vans,
Yeah.
the vans are becoming more popular. A lot of people are living in them because they can't afford the houses, you know, and they're getting off the grid or just traveling. I mean, do it when you're young, because when you get older, they call it the golden years. That doesn't mean it is. Still wait to see the gold.
And so can you give us a tip or two of something you wish you would have known at the very beginning? That would have maybe saved you a little bit of headache?
We bought a brand new van, Ford van, in 1976. So what would I do different? I would have gone in 1976 to some van runs and found out, like here, what they look like inside, what to do with the inside, because ours was a blank screen type thing. And we put interior in it on our own, and then we went to van events in 78 and found out, oh, we should have done this or we should have done that. The best thing to do is go with a blank screen and see what to do. That's the easiest way to find out. Make it yours, but you can pick up ideas here or there.
Thank you so much, Mom.
Yes.
So the van rally just finished. That was literally my first ever van event. And I have to say, I'm blown away by how genuine people were, how excited they were. I realized at the event that even though I'm in the van realm on YouTube and I make van videos, doing stuff on the internet by yourself puts you in a vacuum, and you never really get to be part of the community if you only do that. You know, for anything, whether that be vans or surfboarding or skateboarding or whatever, I don't think you can really be part of the community unless you go out and meet people that do the same thing and actually shake their hand and look inside their vans. That's really what makes that connection, what makes that tight-knit. In this video, I really want to get to the bottom of why vans are trending. Some would say why they're resurfacing because they were a thing in the 70s. And I keep attributing it to this one thing. Is it an economic reason? Is it adventure? What I think I'm going to learn in this documentary is that it's all of the above. The van package is just too good to pass up. It's a truck, it's an RV, it's a passenger car all in one. It allows you to be very adventurous. It saves you money. It's all of the above. So that's my new hypothesis moving forward. Next, we're heading to the Grand Tetons to do more research at the Van Life Diaries meetup. Camping. This is why sprinters rock. We got to a place kind of late, 10:30, 11. We didn't have to set up any tents. We just hopped in the back over there and we fell asleep. And then we woke up in the morning and we didn't have to take down any tents. We just hopped in the van, which we were already in, and we're off. check it out, you guys. There's the van, and we're gonna walk right over here. Doom doo doom doo doom doo doom doo doom doo doom. And there's a nice little river. But when you feel it, it's hot. It's a hot spring river. There's the van. Here's our campsite. Hot spring river. So when you're making breakfast in nature, you always want to look around you because you might just find some wild growing vegetables. This right here is wild onion. The easiest way to identify an onion is by the smell. All onions smell the same, just like a store-bought onion. And today we're just going to harvest a few for our meal, and we're only going to harvest the top. We're going to leave the roots intact so as not to disturb the plant too much. The seeds and fruits of a plant are nature's gift to the creature, to the animal, to the human. And so it's okay to take a couple, throw them in your meal, and it also makes your meal more nutritious because they grow in topsoil that hasn't been depleted. Their root systems are longer, so they're like nature's superfood. Okay, update time. So Kylie and I are driving in the van. We're heading to the Van Life Diaries Van Festival in Victor, Idaho. But I've been texting on the phone with Dave and Diane from Illuminous this entire time, and they just agreed to sit down with me and give me an interview. So what this means is we have to divert a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean like 300 to 500 miles out of our way. If you're not familiar with Illuminous, they are a premium company that manufactures racks and ladders for trucks and vans. Dave and Diane have been doing this for many, many years. They know all the ins and outs of van life, and this is an opportunity that I just can't pass up. So this means that we are probably not gonna be sleeping much in the next couple days because we now have to veer north to Coeur d'Alene, which is a few hundred miles out of our way. Then we're gonna have to veer south back to our original destination, which is Victor, Idaho. But you know what? I don't even care because this is an incredible opportunity and I just didn't think I'd get it. Woo! I'm excited.
So you want to know a little bit about the van life and stuff, so I thought I'd take you back to what I think is kind of at least a decent starting point, and that is the Volkswagen camper van. And so that was around for people to actually go camp in a van way back in the 60s, I believe. I'm not sure exactly the first year. But a gentleman, Charles, and his dad started a company called Sportsmobile in, I believe, Austin, Texas. They always had a shop in Indiana, and they scaled way up with Volkswagen, and then Westphalia came on the picture, or was on there as well, and then they started doing Ford, Chevy, Dodge, and so on. So that was kind of where the whole van thing originally was, in my mind, started. And then in about 91 or 92, a gentleman, Alan Feld, who actually owns Sportsmobile West, he had worked for me when he was 20 years old in a stockroom at a medical device company, and he went on to do some other things beyond that, and one was sales, and he ran into a Sportsmobile, which was a van converted to a motorhome, a Class B motorhome they call them, and he felt he wanted one. He found out he had to go to Texas to get one, and so he thought it'd be a great idea to do a franchise or something in California, and Charles, who was the one who started that or owned it at the time, was not interested, didn't want to scale up again, didn't want anything to do with another business, would just like to have a little shop down there and build 4 or 5 a month, and that was it. And so Alan asked me to go with him down there to talk to him and see if we could talk him into it. So we grabbed on a plane and went down there, and Charles changed his tone after talking to both of us and said okay, and gave us a go-ahead. I chose not to do it with Alan, mainly because I didn't want to lose a friend over stuff, and I'd done a big business for a group of open heart surgeons that you know, just don't want to get involved in that kind of stuff. So anyway, over the years, Alan basically started making these vans out of Chevys and Fords. And then he started looking more at the younger people. Prior to that, it was kind of a retirement van. People would retire, get one of these, go see the national park, stay in a hotel once in a while, but they had some camping and, you know, small camping capability, but not a big motorhome. So Alan started putting the big tires on, and hey, you can go out in the backcountry and so on, and then he got a company called Quigley Motor Company to convert some to four-wheel drive. Quigley Motor Company's back in Manchester, Pennsylvania, and so they started making them four-wheel drives for him, sent him out an empty van, four-wheel drive. He'd convert it to the whole pop-top version like the one you saw out front. And then after about 2 years, all of a sudden there was a problem with four-wheel drive. The front ends were all worn out, they were shaking, they were causing problems, brakes were squeaking and so on. And they argued back and forth about the problem, whose problem it was and who's going to fix it. And actually Mike Quigley back east canceled all the warranties on all the customers, sent them all a letter. So Alan happened to call me up because they built the street rod and said, just tell me how to fix it. He's really good on the marketing and customer service and sales and so on, but I'm kind of the nuts and bolts nut. And so I went up there and took some apart, flew back east, worked with Mike Quigley, we redesigned the front end and so on. But one of the issues was they were putting these steel bumpers that were mainly used on farms for pushing combines and stuff around. They weighed 300-400 pounds, and the guy's doing, 15, 30 miles an hour kind of thing. So they were tearing up the front end as well as some other issues that we solved. So I tried to get his suppliers to make them out of aluminum. They were quite rude about what type of a less than intelligent person would make something out of aluminum. If you wanted a beer can or Japanese pop metal, go see Coors or Budweiser. So next thing you know, I'm in my driveway with a sheet of aluminum and a saw and a welder, and I'm mumbling about those guys because I'm trying to tell them that fighter jets land at full throttle on a carrier, and that's lightweight material. It's all about design. And so I made some and took it up, and Sportsmobile liked it. I was retired at the time, so I could do that. And then I went and found a guy down on the boat docks that could weld way better than I could, manipulate aluminum a lot better than I did. And so I just would buy all the material, take it to him, all cut out and so on. He'd weld them up. I'd take them up to Fresno from San Diego, drop them off, and then after that it just grew. And then I just started adding more items, Nerf bars, rear bumpers, roof racks, ladders, that kind of thing. We started building these things actually in the parking lot of a sports fishing company with one guy, and then I got 800 square feet, then 1,000, then 2,000, then 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. We're up to 30,000 feet now. And, we bring people on and teach them how we want to do the product. We design it for the features and benefits that we think or that we get feedback from our customers. Many of our customers are depicted in these drawings here. They're pioneers. They find out a way to break it or something it doesn't do, and they get a few arrows in their back, and so we invite them back in and we replace it or fix it or evolve it. So that's kind of our philosophy is to try and make the best product out there. And the reason for the aluminum is, one, it's lightweight, and so it doesn't take up the suspension that you need when you're going off-road. Whereas if you compress that suspension, you're back to zero, even if you spend a lot of money to improve it.
Okay, now you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Why are vans booming? What's your assessment?
The new vans, one, are much more efficient, so they can get up in the area of 20 miles per gallon. They have a lot more room, they have a lot more features, whereas the previous vans were pretty tight. And when you get two people in those, there's not much room to get around and so on. But in the Sprinter van and the Transit van and stuff, you can get different lengths, so you can get a lot more gear in there. And people are wanting to take more and more stuff with them, so it accommodates more of their toys and their pleasures of kayaks and bicycles and motorcycles and that kind of thing. I think that they are more versatile, they're more economical. You're going from 10 miles per gallon to close to 20. And the longevity, back early on, I'm an old guy, vehicles lasted 80, 90,000 miles. Now, Mercedes van has got a track record of going 400,000 or 500,000 miles. So even though they're much more expensive, the cost for the life is a lot less.
How about the types of people that you're seeing? Is it young people, old people, or like a big mix? Who would you say your average customer is? On a personal opinion basis, I would believe that our customer base is younger now, because the original van market I always labeled as the blue hairs. These people are retired and they want to now go out and see, the great old US of A, and they got these vans that they would camp in. They were two-wheel drive, pretty basic, and it allowed them to go to national parks and things. Today, it's the youth, the sports-minded, who's taken their mountain bikes and their kayaks and their surfboards. Mexico's a great wonderland. And I would say the big market we had early on were teachers and firefighters who had the time off and could explore further beyond the pavement. So a lot of people that went to Mexico, surfing, fishing, that kind of thing. A lot of people that went off-roading and to the desert and so on.
from Portland.
No, I'm from San Francisco. I'm not from Portland. Jesus Christ. I'm a goddamn San. Wait for. I'll go in with you. I'll go with you too. Come on. Here you go. Cheers, guys.
My name's Matt Swartz, and I'm one half of the Van Project. It's sort of a social media community blog that my girlfriend Amanda and I run. We drive a 1964 Clark Cortez motorhome. We ended up finding a smaller V, but we still kind of refer to it as a van. It kind of feels like a van to us. And we've been on the road for a little over a year now. Our home is our vehicle, and we're not tied down, so we can go wherever we want, and we do. We've been all over the Southwest this winter, and now we're here in Idaho.
My name is Marcella Garofalo, and this is our little trailer.
And my name is Taz Darian. We chose to go with a trailer as opposed to a van because we have the flexibility of leaving our home at the campground or wherever we decide to stay and go explore in our vehicle.
Living with less, you actually live more, in that you have the freedom to not be tied down by things and confined in a box, essentially. Dealing with all these possessions. You really don't need much.
You don't. People think bigger is better, more is better, but in reality, traveling full time in our little trailer has taught us to minimize. We actually ended up going home briefly just to get rid of half of our gear because we really didn't need that much. You just need the simple necessities to survive, like the basic needs really to be comfortable, and actually living this way teaches you what you truly need to be comfortable. And I don't know, you're working with the elements more. We don't have running water, we don't have a bathroom, but it kind of teaches you to appreciate like the things that you took for granted when you did have all those things.
I'm Josh, and we're driving a 1987 Vanagon Westfalia.
So I'm Jen, and we've been on the road for about 3 weeks. We're planning to be on the road for many months coming up. We're going up to Alaska and hopefully all the way down to Patagonia after that.
She's an 82 Vanagon Westfalia, and I got it a couple years ago. I'd wanted one for a long time, and it was lime green, and that was it. Saw it, and I was like, that's the one.
Sprinter was always the best option for us. We wanted a four-wheel drive, we wanted the diesel for the gas mileage, and we wanted standing room height in the van.
I think most people that do van life, they really love the idea of sustainability and being off-grid and minimalism. You can't help but think of all of those things when you think of a Tesla, right? Zero emissions, small, they're also very sleek and minimal, and I love cars and it's sexy as hell, so how could you not? Living in a zero emission vehicle has offset my carbon footprint immensely, and it feels great every day. Not just driving, but living in it.
My name is Seven Gray, and I am driving a step van. This is a 1996 Grumman Olson step van. A lot of people confuse a step van with a box truck. Box trucks are typically a cabbed separate front, and that can either be a van front or a traditional truck front with a big square rectangular box on the back. Step vans are more like bread trucks or UPS or FedEx trucks. The front doors are sliding doors. They slide into pockets, and also they have steps right on the passenger side, which is where they get their name. So there's just a bunch of steps, and I'm sitting on the steps right now. I had a number of criteria for my vehicle, and one of those was primarily headroom. I'm nearly 6'6", and a Sprinter van maxes out at about 6'3", and I didn't want to walk around with my head tilting all the time. So I needed a vehicle that was tall enough for me and in my price range. I didn't want to finance it, I wanted to pay cash. And they're built for industrial use, like the engine in this particular vehicle Cummins 5.9 is built for 1 million miles because it's an industrial engine. I bought it with 10,000 miles on it. That means I've got 990,000 miles of potential use.
We drive a 2006 Sprinter 3500 dually. We got married in November 2016, but we were living in Denver, had a great life, everything was awesome, and I think we could just kind of extrapolate out the next 15 years and see what like normal life was going to be for us, and it scared us both a little bit, and so we started thinking about, you know, trips that we can go on, just kind of like things that we could do to change things up. Started getting involved in the van life community through Instagram, and then one Saturday afternoon we just kind of sat down, got out a spreadsheet, and like actually built out the whole thing. Like, okay, could we make this work financially on the road? What would van life look like? And then exactly 10 days later we bought a van.
In 2016, we gave up our house, put everything in storage, and we started traveling in a truck and trailer because it was a fairly easy transition from a house to a trailer. It was 300 square feet, and we could convince our 17-year-old daughter that it would be a good idea. After traveling for about a year in the truck and trailer, we realized that we were limited as far as where we could go and what we could see, and we started brainstorming as to what we wanted to do and how we wanted things to look, and a smaller space was not that big of a transition for us. And we started looking around, and we wanted something that would accommodate all of us comfortably. We'd all have our own beds, except for the two of us, and we could stand in, and was good on gas because our truck and trailer was not. So we gravitated towards a Sprinter van because of the space and the height.
Quick tour on the van. Biggest, I guess, struggle was to figure out how to put 5 of us in here. So one of the big things that we came up with is kind of a bunk bed system for the boys. This platform folds out, allowing Josiah to have a bed down below. And then we got this bed here that will kind of pull up into the ceiling, lock in on the walls, pull up on some straps in the front, and that's basically Samuel's bed. So that's how we hold the 2 boys in there. This is where the kids travel. There are seat belts in there. That was a big concern for a lot of people, that we weren't going to keep our kids safe. So seat belts in there. Storage throughout the bottom. This will slide out, allowing Sarah to have an almost twin kind of bed system. I guess in the back we have a full-size RV queen bed for both me and Tracy. It also doubles as kind of our lounge area when it's movie night or when the kids need to stretch out. It's Tracy's favorite place to basically slide some pillows up, kick the doors open in the morning. I make her a cup of coffee and she takes in the view wherever we happen to be calling home that day. Fabbed up this aluminum shelf, runs the full length of the van, allowing each of us to have 2 bins each for our clothes. You know, if you can't fit it in the bin, it wasn't allowed on the van.
I'm 67 now, but in my late teens and early 20s, I spent a lot of time hitchhiking around the country and settled down, but I knew that I wanted to travel again, and hitchhiking it later on was not that great, so I always wanted to do a van. So we kind of eventually found a van that we liked, converted it, spent our maiden voyage about 5 years ago, going through New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and then back home to northern New York, and it worked out fairly well.
Sylvie, what's it like to live with Rich on the road?
I would say that 90% of the time it's incredibly comfortable, and I never thought I would be able to say that because sharing a very small space is very difficult. But we really are very comfortable with one another. We listen to one another. We give each other space. We know how to move around one another, so it's been great. It really has. And those little rough moments, we worked them out.
So we were just talking about how and why we're in a van, and we have no idea. Like, I really wanted to. I saw stuff on the internet, and I was like, that'd be super rad. And then I pitched it to her, and she's like, nah. And then like a month later or something, she was like, actually, we should do that. So then the next week we went and bought a van and then started building it. So, and never really looked back. We never really questioned it. It was weird.
Julia, what's it like to have 2 little ones in the van?
It's challenging, but...
Good example right now.
Yeah, they're very active, but I think it'll be good once we can be outside more and we're in more even temperatures.
Which may never happen.
Yeah, may never happen. We'll see.
My reason for living small has to do with environmental initiatives. I want to reduce my environmental footprint, and I felt that when I was living in the city, I had a hard time conceptualizing how much I was using. And so van life was a way for me to cut back on my water use, my electricity, connect with nature, and play a bigger role in being an environmental steward. And I think it's definitely done that. I've been more aware, I live more intentionally, and through my social media I try to encourage people to do the same, even small things, even if they're not living in a van. And next month, July, I am going to be part of a 30-day plastic-free challenge, and I'm encouraging the van life community to be a part of that as well. And so it's a step in the direction of trying to make some change, and I think together as a community, if we all change, we can have a really big impact.
I personally think there's like a minimalism movement, sort of, and I think that as that catches on, more people are realizing that stuff really doesn't make them happy, and it's like the experiences that you have that make you happy, at least for us, that I've realized. And so having not very much stuff like helps you to not be distracted from the things in your life, and instead focus on the experiences that you can have and the memories that you can create.
Amanda and I were living in San Francisco. We were both freelancing, and we'd been doing a bunch of traveling. We took a 3.5-month trip to South America together and did the whole west coast of the country. And when we got back to San Francisco and we're living on our freelancer income, it felt like a tough balance to strike there. The cost of living was really high, and just the amount of hustle that needed to happen to exist there in a comfortable financial state was just more than we wanted to do. You know, it was the threshold between just constantly working versus doing something that we really loved and having some free time to ourselves. It felt like the balance was off, much more in the direction of looking for work and being concerned about that. So we love to travel, and we had this crazy idea, not too crazy really, but we said, you know, why don't we look for a van and see how that could work out. That was pretty much it. Cost of living in San Francisco, man, it'll make you do some crazy stuff.
You know, I think exploration is, as a feature of the human species, is kind of the thing that is maybe one of the best parts of who we are. And I don't know, I think a certain group of people are tapping into that, and not everyone can go to the moon, but damn it, you could drive out to the middle of nowhere and Bears Ears and watch the sunrise over the Colorado River and have your soul filled. There's some weird jolt of serotonin and endorphins that I think feeds some of the better instincts of our species in it. And so, I don't know, maybe it's an expression of a good thing in the species where, yeah, that's about as much as as far as I've thought through it. Try not to overthink it. Just keep going with what feels healthy.
Right now, how I make some side money in order to support myself to some degree is Lyft driving. And with minimal maintenance, it makes it relatively beneficial, especially versus gasoline cars. And that's kind of how I'm trying to get by for now, until hopefully something extravagant happens.
I guess we're seasonal van lifers, so we spend the winters working and thinking about the summers doing this.
Yeah, it's good motivation to get through work.
So I'm an acupuncturist. I also have a health navigation / coaching business called Evolve Personal Wellness, and I'm always looking for clients who are really looking to make long-term changes that they might have struggled with in the past.
When I was actually an undergrad, I started an education company called Learn Fresh. It's actually a nonprofit, and we partnered with the NBA and made a fun math game for elementary and middle school students. So we work across 30 states, about 35,000 students on a weekly basis, and our whole team is remote. Not as remote as we are, but we're spread out across the country. We're a distributed company. When I had this idea, brought it to my board, shared with some other staff members, and they said, well, as long as you can still get to the place where you need to fly to for work, it shouldn't be a problem. And so I'm really fortunate that I can work wherever there's Wi-Fi. I do have to travel a bit for work and kind of leave her doing the solo thing with our puppy. But yeah, that's been really great for us.
One of the places that I lived for a while was over in Taiwan. While I was in Taiwan, not to be confused with Thailand, Taiwan has a very, very low cost of living. You can live there. I had an apartment, $100 a month, included a scooter and internet, but you can live in places like Taipei for $300 or $400 a month and then eat out every day. What's unique about Taiwan is if you have a bachelor's degree from Canada or the United States, you're guaranteed a job teaching English over there 20 hours a week, and you can earn about $30,000 a year. And then your cost of living, just a few $100s a month. You can put $25,000 a year in a bank account. And my idea was to save up a couple of years working over there and buy rental properties. And so if you can get 2 or 3 rental properties, you can live easily in a van for $500 to $1,000 a month, and you can retire by age 30, 35, and just travel the world, travel in a van, and never have to work again. So that's my advice to people who are fairly young, is to go that route so you don't have to slave away in a cubicle for your entire life.
The biggest non-glamorous part of van life is sometimes the isolation, and solitude's a good thing, but isolation can be a little bit weird because sometimes it is just you and your van, and you've got your I have to call it like your almost like your disposable relationships, which might be a cynical way to look at it, but your friends you make for a few days and then you're off on the road again. Sometimes that can be really beautiful and you make lifelong friends, but sometimes it's very transient.
I'm really longing for some long-term connections, and I think this community really offers it. These gatherings are a great way to make those connections, but life on the road is about impermanence and spontaneity, and that can be a little bit of a struggle at times. So I like the idea of resting in between travels and doing it as often as I can, but also just really connecting with people in my surroundings a little bit more.
While it opens up a lot of opportunities, you also lose out on a lot of opportunities. You have to say no to a lot of relationships, or have someone, be very understanding, or a lot of the couples you see out here have a lot of the same wants. I think for me, what would get me out of it is an opportunity that I want to say yes to that gets me out of it.
I think there's several different classifications of people that are doing the van life. There's those that are choosing to do that and are very actively engaged in the world around them, either with employment and income, the way they dress, the way they take care of themselves, the way they interact with others. Those people, I think, flourish and do very well walking into Starbucks or into any retail establishment or going to gatherings. I think the ones that struggle are the people that are forced into van life without a choice, who maybe have difficulties engaging with others and being socially interactive on a way that's not confrontational. And I think these people would struggle whether they're in a van or living in an apartment or in a house. It doesn't really matter. It's just that they're forced into a van, and those particular individuals, I think, struggle a lot in the van life world and relating with what we call sticks and bricks people that judge them, and maybe they view it as being judged for living in a van, but I think it's probably not. It's due to differences in attitudes and maybe the social, I don't know what the word is, the social ability to relate and be able to communicate effectively with others, and they just are not able to integrate with society, and the van is irrelevant. It just happens to be where they're at. There's two factors that are lending themselves to van life and the popularity of van life. One is the internet and the digital age. We now have really good information infrastructure with Wi-Fi hotspots and internet access, which allows you to have location-independent type ability to work wherever you want. They've coined a term a few years ago called the digital nomad. Now we have all these digital nomads that are traveling the world, but some of them want to have a place to put more stuff. They don't really want to be as minimalist as a backpack. So they can still live a minimalist lifestyle and combine that with the digital nomad. So that's the second factor, is minimalism.
One of the reasons why van life is booming is
that people are just kind of saying no to this false dichotomy of having to separate like life and earning money from having fun and enjoying and doing the things that you love, right? And so more and more people are trying to bring everything together into one holistic life that is fun and adventurous and also hopefully works for you financially. In this day and age, so much of what we want to experience is like out there, far out there, and then also there's a lot of like digital experiences, right? And so when you bring those two things together, like being anchored in a place is less valuable to our generation.
I mean, I think a lot of people get into it because of the financial difference, like compared to renting a house or owning a house, and it depends where you live, but it can be astronomically more expensive. If you want to be able to live without the need to make all that money, it gives you that freedom.
Or even people like us who really, this is like how we vacation. If we didn't have a van and we had to book hotels and eat out every night or for every meal, we wouldn't be able to go the places that we have been or be away from home for weeks and weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So it's a way for us to be able to see as much of our country as we can with our budget.
My take is that alternative lifestyles are really the thing that people are exploring these days, and the van life is one alternative lifestyle. And I think financial reasons is I think an important one, and freedom is an important one, and just the ability to just go out there and explore and kind of break loose for a while is really important to a segment of the population. And I think it's great. I really do. I think there's so many ways of living your life, and the van life is one way.
I think the biggest thing is just the freedom to be a creative individual and not feel the pressure of having to earn this big income to afford a house. I think that's really appealing to people right now, and I think especially people our age, in their 30s, 20s, anyone. This is independent of age, but people are reevaluating what success means, and they're finding that they can be happy and feel successful with less, and this is one way to do that.
I feel like broke something.
Not good. Sheer heads.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
Hey y'all, watch this!
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Uh-oh.
Here's a quick check-in after the Van Life Diaries Festival that we went to in Victor, Idaho. We had a fantastic time, interviewed a bunch of people. I collected 23 interviews throughout the weekend, which was a large sample size of the people there. And the verdict is different strokes for different folks. A lot of people come to van life for various different reasons, whether that be financial or adventure. And it seems like the driving force for all of them, a theme that keeps coming out, is freedom. Freedom from something. Freedom from bills, paying for rent, or freedom to adventure, some form of freedom. Another pattern that I noticed in my interviews is that typically people seem to be doing the van life thing full time for about a year and a half. There are people that just started, and there are people that have certainly done it longer, but it seemed like a year and a half was kind of the mark people were hitting before they craved stability. In my mind, that I sort of drew a parallel between living the van life and traveling, because a lot of times people, when they go traveling, they can keep that going for X amount of time, and then they crave just being back in a stable place. So a conclusion I came to surrounding that was that people really do use van life as a way to see the country. Maybe they get out of college or high school, they buy a van, and it's just an inexpensive way to cruise around, see the southern United States, the northern, check out the Pacific Northwest, and really get to know this country in depth. In the wake of the festival, Kylie and I have been talking about it repeatedly, that we just want to travel more and make more time to be out in nature. Tetons, Yellowstone, June 2018. Campgrounds are all booked, and I'd really hate to be in a tent right about now. This is one of the magic parts of owning a van, because you could get the best of both worlds. It's like having a cabin on wheels. You could choose to camp if you want to in a tent, but when the weather is absolutely awful, when it's pissing rain and hailing, you can take shelter in your turtle shell.
Those buffalo were awesome! So awesome! So far this summer, we've interviewed dozens of van lifers, people who live in their vans. We want to go ahead and switch it up a little bit to get companies' perspectives, so businesses who may be affected by this van life boom. We want to see if they've seen an increase in sales, who's buying their products, and what they make out of all of this.
After a quick stop at home in Tacoma, Washington, where we backed up our footage and made sure that it looked good, we hit the road again to interview some van companies. We plotted a course south to Fresno, California to interview Sportsmobile West owner Alan Feld and his son Jonathan. Alan is in part responsible for the camper van as we know it today. He's seen all the ins and outs of vans as they've ebbed and flowed throughout the years, and thus Kylie and I thought he'd have some valuable insight to share.
Okay, welcome to Sportsmobile, and this is how it all started here. This is a 1965 Volkswagen. We actually started the company in 1961, converting Volkswagens into little campers, and then in the mid-60s we actually went from Volkswagens to Ford, Chevy, and Dodges, and that's what we're doing now along with the Mercedes Sprinters. In 1965, in our government's wonderful wisdom, they put a tariff on these vehicles from Germany. It's called the chicken tax. I guess the Europeans weren't buying chickens from us in the 60s, so in retaliation we put a tax on utility vehicles, and the little van got caught up in that. And I think back in 65 this van was like $1,800 brand new, and they put a $400 tariff on it. So we sent one of our kits, camper kits, to a company in Germany called Westphalia. And you guys are too young, but if you remembered in the older vans, the tops all went straight up and down. Those are all Sportsmobiles. Just like our tops now on the Fords and the Sprinters go straight up and down. We have a patent on that. And then Volkswagen tops all tilted. And they did that to get around our patent. Started bringing the vans in from Europe to get around the utility tariff, because now they were RVs, they weren't utility vehicles. So back then we lost all our supply of Volkswagens, and our sales were all through Volkswagen America. So we lost our parts coming in, and our distribution all went away. So we went to Ford, Chevy, and Dodge, and we have sold direct since 1965. So these are all service vans back here. I mean, that is a really old Dodge right there. It's a 1980 something probably, maybe early 90s. And they brought it in to have something repaired, something replaced, add solar panels. And that one's from Montana, that one's from Colorado. In 2015, Ford discontinued the Econoline van. And the Ford Econoline was kind of our claim to fame. We did a lot of four-wheel drive conversions and everything, and when they discontinued it, we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And luckily, Mercedes came out with their four-wheel drive that same year. So that kind of saved us, but people still wanted the Econoline because of the articulation. The towing capacity is 10,000 pounds. So Ford is going to make what they call their cutaways for the next 8 to 10 years. And they're making them for the motorhome market, the ambulance market, and U-Haul is one of their biggest customers. So what we do is we get this Econoline like this, which the good news is it's half price. The bad news is you get what you pay for, and there's not a whole lot there.
And then you guys have to build the whole back part.
We're building the whole body on the back end. So again, if you look, this one's got cherry wood, this one's got the white wood, this one's got the dark, we have all different kinds of colors and showroom. So we just signed a new deal with a company back east called Quigley Motors, which is this van here. This is a Ford Transit, which is not made by Ford with a four-wheel drive. So Quigley is converting these for us for four-wheel drive now, because some people want the Ford Transit, they want a gas engine versus a diesel engine. One of the issues with the diesel engines is we sell to a lot of people that like to do international travel. Well, with the ultra-low sulfur American diesel standards, you can go to Baja now because there are some gas stations down there that do have the ultra-low sulfur, but mainland Mexico doesn't have it. There's a lot of countries in Central and South America that don't have it. So a lot of people need a gas engine to go international travel. Okay, well this is our Classic. So that one there is 4 inches narrower on the inside. This is our one that's fiberglass on the back that we just built. And again, we have the same box here, silverware. This all flips out, flips down. And this has got the light oak in it. It's got a little microwave in it.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Now my wife and I have this one with a pop top, and we sleep up all the time except in 2 situations. The first one, if it's really cold outside, we'll camp like this, but when we go to bed at night, we'll lower the top because now the furnace is heating half the space and it's way more efficient. And the other time we sleep down below is when we're stealth camping. At the Ahwahnee, the Hilton, the Hyatt, and the Marriott, we don't put the top up, we don't put the awning out, and I don't barbecue outside. And nobody knows you're sleeping in it. But like Apple, we sell to a lot of people from Apple and Google because the cost of living in the Bay Area is so high, and they're staying on those campuses in their vehicles. You know, get up in the morning and go to work. I mean, they've got cafeterias there, they got gyms, they got showers. We sell to a lot of doctors that have to be on call, they have to be at the hospital. In fact, Clovis Community here has hookups. And they're 50 feet from the front door, but they've got their own bedding. People aren't slamming doors all the time and turning lights on.
Interesting, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, a lot of traveling nurses, a lot of traveling radiologists that travel and sit on other people's businesses while they're going on vacation or at seminars and stuff, and living out of their vans because they have everything with them. My red van, my wife calls it my man purse. And every time we go somewhere, she goes, let's take the car. I go, I want to take the van because I have everything with me. I don't care if the hotels are booked because I've got a bed. I don't care if the restaurants are closed because I have my own refrigerator, I have my own food. And the best thing is we have a portable toilet, and I can actually get from here to San Diego 45 minutes faster because I don't have to stop 3 times. I do slow to 55, but I don't have to pull over. Every time I pull over, it's 15 minutes.
Van life has grown exponentially. I don't know if I could put a number on it, but it's easily doubled, tripled. I mean, probably more than that. I don't know if I have a really percentage number to quantify things, but massive. I mean, it has just been massive, and just in our business and you know, nearby businesses and people who are involved in selling parts for vans. I mean, every industry involved with vans just seems to be blowing up. There are definitely different reasons for every individual why they choose the van life. I think the biggest one is adventure. They see the possibilities, and a lot of our customers are into the outdoors. I get people that ask me all the time, who is buying these things? You know, I mean, they see this factory full. I tell them we're 1.5 years out, and they're like, who in the world is buying all these things? And it's like everyone that is interested in the outdoors. Do you like cycling? Do you like skiing? Do you like photography? Do you like mountain climbing? Anything that's going to take you out of the city and into the outdoors. And I can even go further than that. I mean, people stealth camp in the city. They'll go tailgating. They'll use these as just kind of road trip vehicles to take their buddies to Vegas. So there's not just like one individual reason to get in a van. I mean, there's just a multitude. People use them in mobile dog grooming. There's just a million applications that a van just fits really nicely into.
In August and September, we visited more companies operating within the van realm. We drove up to Decked, a business that makes pull-out drawers for trucks and vans. We went to see Vertirac, a company that produces ladders and surf racks for commercial vehicles. We spoke to Prime Design, a van accessories brand, and Road Shower, the pioneer of pressurized outdoor road showers for adventure vehicles. I even flew out to the East Coast to Manchester, Pennsylvania to interview Mike and Todd Quigley from the Quigley Motor Company about why vans are popping. Time and again, we heard the same things. Business is up. Vans are trending, social media is propelling the movement forward, and vans are booming because they offer people freedom and adventure in a one-size-fits-all package. Curious to know more about how and why social media has latched on to #vanlife, I reached out to several popular internet personas to get a better grasp on what's going on. I was particularly curious how real van life differs from that which you see on Instagram.
My name's Kristen Bohr. I run the outdoor adventure blog called barefoottheory.com, where I share information about the outdoors and try to help people build the skill set they need to have a good time outside. I also write about van life. I love having the van. It just makes it so much easier to work from the road and get my job done and be able to maintain my career while still having the flexibility to travel. Van life has obviously exploded over the last few years, but I think people have been doing this for a very long time, but with Instagram and the internet, just more and more people are finding out that this is a possibility. And I think also the internet has made it easier for people to take their careers online and be able to work remotely, which makes living in a van full-time more viable for people because they can actually continue to explore their career passions while also traveling. I do think Instagram has a tendency to romanticize van life. People are only showing the prettiest pictures, a super clean, tidy van, which is really unrealistic actually. My van is a mess all the time because you're living in such a small space. And I think also it can be tough to people in a van. So if one person likes it and the other doesn't, that can be hard to reconcile. And, you really have to communicate a lot. So I think, for people who are doing it as a couple, I think they get in to the van and it maybe challenges their relationship in ways that maybe they didn't expect. I also think you're making decisions all the time. What are you going to eat? Where are you going to camp? What are you going to do? I think constant decision making can be really challenging for people who are used to just waking up, going to job, being told what to do, and then all of a sudden you come into the van and you have like so many decisions that you have to make that that can be hard for people. And I think you're not always staying at like a beautiful campsite. A lot of times you're staying either at a campground or a Walmart or on the side of the road, and it's not necessarily what people show on Instagram, these beautiful campsites. There's some of that, but there's also like not beautiful campsites. And I think sometimes people have these expectations about like what van life's going to be, and that every day is going to be like the most exciting day of your life, where there's a lot of mundane. Also, you spend a lot of time driving, you spend a lot of time looking for good campsites. And so I think that like some people like the challenges that come with it and thrive in those environments and others don't. And so when that sort of, when they're faced with those challenges, it like causes stress, and like that's not the point of being out here. If, you get a van and all you are is stress, then that's not really, fun.
One thing that I just thought of as you were talking, so, maybe part of the Instagram appeal is this carefree life. Mm-hmm. And then when you get in a van, you realize, well, life is still not problem-free. You have to find water. You have to find a place to bunk up for the night. You got to figure out what the hell you're going to do every day. Mm-hmm. So would it be fair to say that you just trade in one set of responsibilities for another? You don't absolve yourself of responsibility?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think there's a lot to think about when you're out here. I mean, we were just in Seattle, and like there's nowhere to park that feels really all that comfortable in Seattle. So you're in this cool city and you want to go explore, but then where are you going to park? So I think there's just always things that are on the back of your mind when you're traveling. There are tons of responsibility that come with a van. I think cleaning a van is easier than cleaning a house, but it's not like you just. I don't think it's as carefree and doesn't free you from some of the stresses that you face in daily life. Yeah, so I don't want to make it seem like it's all negative. I love the opportunities that van life has presented me with, but in terms of just kind of thinking about some of the challenges that maybe you don't see on the internet and that people aren't always talking about, and maybe what causes some people to quit like a month or two in that they maybe didn't expect. I think that's just some of some of the causes I think that may not sit well with people once they're actually out here.
Is van life here to stay, or is it a trend that is fleeting?
I think van life's here to stay. I mean, people have been doing it since way back when people traveled in VW buses, and now I think it's a more accessible lifestyle to anyone. Like, you don't have to be a hippie living in a van to live in a van now. You can have a normal job and maintain a career from the road. And so I think as more and more people realize that hey, I can explore my career passions and live in a van, and it's just it's makes you able to think outside the box a little bit more in terms of the possibilities for how you can make money and still maintain your freedom from a normal 9-to-5 job, and be able to travel and work it all together in a nice, convenient way. I think it's here to stay.
In October, as our film production started winding down, Kylie and I continued reaching out to van people. We formally interviewed several new folks, followed up on Skype with friends that we'd made over the summer, and repeatedly started up casual conversations about van life with strangers on the street. These additional dialogues confirmed what we had already learned. The majority of people who come to live in a van do so because A, the cost of buying or renting a home is a burden in today's economy, and B, people have the desire to live adventurous lives and travel more, while also putting a stronger emphasis on experiences instead of things, i.e. being minimalists. We also discovered that reasons A and B are not mutually exclusive, meaning that more often than not, vanners come to van because of both lower living costs and the higher likelihood for adventure. It's also interesting to note that at least 1/5 of the van lifers that we interviewed in June, July, August, and September ended up selling their vans and renting apartments, remarking that van life wasn't sustainable long term. While each party had their own reasons and explanations for why they stopped van life, common threads could be observed. Ex-vanners explained that while living in a van offered certain benefits, they ultimately found it to be lonely and craved community, namely friends and family, missed their former routines, stability, careers, and lacked an overall sense of purpose. In our conversations together, Kylie and I came to agree that van lifers who tend to thrive on the road full-time and last past the 1.5 year mark are comprised of people who have a deep love and appreciation for the outdoors. Such individuals tend to spend the majority of their time outside already, with or without a van, and thus thrive as full-time road warriors once they acquire a vehicle that's conducive to their lifestyle. As for the rest of us, van life is a fantastic temporary break from a stuffy desk job, a reoccurring mortgage payment, and a traditional sedentary lifestyle. It's also a great way to experience heaps of adventure and see our country for a year or two. However, for most of us, full-time van life seems to have big voids and is not sustainable indefinitely. Since June 2nd, 2018, Kylie and I have traveled over 18,000 miles while working on this film. 12,000 of those miles were logged crisscrossing the western United States in our Sprinter van, and 6,000 miles were covered by airplane and rental car. Over the span of summer and fall, we also interviewed 40+ people in depth about vans and informally spoke to at least 40 more. Throughout our conversations, we learned that vans are increasing in popularity for several different reasons. And the first reason is flexibility. Vans are a complete utilitarian package. They are an RV and a truck and a passenger car smashed into one. Hence, vans offer their owners complete control over how they are customized and used. Do you want to start a mobile acupuncture or chiropractor business? No problem, you can do that. Do you have a big family and want to see all 50 states? Easy peasy. And the list goes on and on. Regardless of what your dream is, if it requires a vehicle, a van fits that bill. Secondly, vans are economical. As the cost of living continues to increase, many people choose to or are forced to get creative about how they exist on this earth. Vans are a viable solution because they enable folks to maintain a high standard of life without the homeless stigma. By skipping a traditional home and moving into a gas-efficient minibus, van dwellers can save thousands of dollars every month. This in turn takes a lot of the pressure away from having to bust your hump at a job you hate. When life costs less, you have to work less, and when you have to work less, you have a lot more free time to do that which makes you happy. Thirdly, vans offer people freedom, and freedom, as we all know, is heavily prized in our culture. For some people, freedom equals liberation from bills and the 40-hour work week, which ties directly into the point that I just made about vans being economical. But for others, Freedom has more to do with spontaneity and adventure, and vans are just as good at spontaneity and adventure as they are at saving money. When you hit the road in a decked out van, you never have to book a hotel or make a reservation at a restaurant. You can decide to stay somewhere for an extra day or leave a day earlier, and you get to bring the comfort of your home wherever you go. A van is like a turtle shell, providing you with most of your necessities wherever and whenever you need them. And if this isn't freedom, I don't know what is. At the beginning of this project, Kylie and I set out to determine why vans are booming. I think we were successful in this venture and determined that vans are trending for the 3 reasons that I just discussed: flexibility, economy, and freedom. As for whether or not vans are the new American dream, for me the jury's still out. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. What is the American dream anyway? Is it the white picket fence? Is it the husband and wife or the 2.5 kid family? After pondering on this concept for many months, I've come to realize that the idea of any one thing being the American dream is preposterous. There are roughly 300 million people in the US alone, and each one of those people has their own unique idea of what their dreams and wants are. Sure, some people want a more traditional cookie-cutter lifestyle, but others rebel against this and strive for an existence that's unique to their own values. And van life is no different. For some people, exploring the US in a van seems like an idyllic, fun endeavor, but for others, this type of lifestyle probably seems irresponsible, claustrophobic, and dreadful. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with either of these stances. It's ultimately up to the individual, to you, to decide which American dream works for you and which one doesn't. For what it's worth, I still think vans are awesome, and I have no plans to get rid of my van anytime soon. And I have tons of new friends that feel exactly the same way I do. So there you have it. Now you know. And last thing that I've been asking everybody is if you had to describe vans and van life in one word, what would that one word be to you? You can't think about it too hard, you gotta just...
Yeah, freedom.
Possibility.
Sustainable.
Impactful. Extravagant.
I'd say freedom. Definitely freedom.
Interesting. Peace, I guess.
What does van life mean to you?
Sustainability.
Roller coaster.
Life changing.
So van life is rewarding. It's not always easy, but for me, the exploration and the opportunity to explore our lands and myself is worth it.
Dogs love it.
It's natural. Enlightening.
Freedom.
Freedom.
I would say either the word is independence or freedom.
Freedom.
If I could describe van life in one word, it would be fulfilling.
Unfinished.
Yeah, exactly.
Our van's not finished yet, so it's been fair. We don't have running water yet, and we're under electrified. So.
I think that the idea would be adventure for me.
When you say van life, I say freedom. I was gonna say dirtbag, but I don't use that word very often.
You can use dirtbag.
All right, let's do it. Freedom and dirt. A free dirtbag.
A free dirtbag. Yeah, free dirtbag.
Exploration for sure, yeah. Explore. That's just it, yeah.
Adventure.
Freedom.
Fun.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Simplicity.
I don't know, it's freedom would be for me.
Learning.
Yeah. There you go.
Opportunity, really.
Freedom.
Adventure.
Sheer joy.
I would just say freedom.
I say van life, you say...
Wild. I don't know. I wanted to say free, but that's not really how my journey is. So